All right, guys, let's talk about the news that we have going on today. Our first story revolves around Megan Fox, which I didn't anticipate talking about Megan Fox on this show. I'm sure you didn't either, but she's come into the news over a conflict that she's having with a man by the name of Robby Starbuck. You know him probably as a Nashville politician. He's also quite a prevalent figure, conservative figure on the internet, and he called out Megan Fox over what she's been doing with her kids. For those of you who don't know, Megan Fox has 3 sons, and these 3 sons happen to dress like girls. They dress in girls' clothing. So Robby Starbuck hopped on Twitter and said, "These are Megan Fox's sons. We used to live in the same gated community and our kids played at the park. I saw 2 of them have a full breakdown saying that they were forced by their mom to wear girls' clothes as their nanny tried to console them. It's pure child abuse. Pray for them." So an interesting sort of hot take out of nowhere from Robby Starbuck on Megan Fox's kids. And of course, this started some turmoil. We're going to get into conversation around her choice to dress her kids in girls' clothing, but we'll get there. Megan Fox saw this and responded and said, "Hey, Robby Starbuck, I really don't want to give you this attention because you're clearly a clout chaser, but let me teach you something. Irregardless of how desperate you may become at any given time to acquire wealth, power, success, or fame, never use children as leverage or social currency, especially under malevolent or an erroneous pretense. Exploiting my child's gender identity to gain attention in your political campaign has put you on the wrong side of the universe. I have been burned at the stake by insecure, narcissistic, impotent little men like you many times, and yet I'm still here. You effed with the wrong witch." So, of course, this goes viral. Right? Megan Fox responds to Robby Starbuck, and Robby posts this to Twitter and says, "Megan Fox has responded to my concern about her sons being dressed up in girls' clothing with an IG post where she seemingly threatens me with witchcraft. Does that seem like a sane response to you?" And put the post there. Let's break this down. Let's get into it. First of all, there are points that I agree with both sides of this argument. One, if I were Robby Starbuck and I saw Megan Fox's kids having an emotional breakdown in a park over their clothing, over the fact that they are dressed as girls, would my impulse be to post that on the internet? No. These are emotional, vulnerable periods for children. We care about children. We care about protecting children. I think the last thing a child needs is for their emotional breakdown to be shown all over the internet or to be talked about on the internet. If we truly care about protecting children and their lives and their vulnerabilities, that involves not allowing their drama and emotional moments to be aired out like dirty laundry on the internet. So there's point 1. Point 2, do I think it's necessarily okay that Megan Fox dresses her 3 sons up as girls? I don't agree with it. No. To me personally, that is not cool. What are the odds that you as a mother of 3 have 3 gender bending children who have different gender expressions than their biological maleness that they were born with? What are the odds? Is it more likely that maybe you have a certain personal ideology that you are pushing on your children and that shines through them wearing girl clothes even though they're boys? I think the latter is more likely. So there are things that I take issue with on both sides, and I think we can have this discussion, and we could have had that discussion without bringing up the emotional vulnerabilities of these children having a breakdown at the park. And really that's it. Now, we have another jump here, and because Megan Fox, at the bottom of her paragraph in response to Robby Starbuck, said, "I've been burned at the stake by insecure, narcissistic, impotent little men like you many times. You effed with the wrong witch." Now people are hopping on the internet and saying, Megan Fox is threatening people with witchcraft, and she's a self-proclaimed witch. Guys, BFFR. It is clearly a play on words, right? She's being burned at the stake. theoretically, because people are calling her out for practices that she has within her own life, with her own sons. It's essentially like a witch hunt is what she's likening it to. And that's why she says you effed with the wrong witch. I don't think we need to hop on the train of thinking that she's, practicing some sort of evil dark magic on people. And of course, she fanned the flames of this, right? And went on the internet and posted a picture of a recent news story about these witches who were out in the woods, I guess, eating a deer, which I'm sure you all saw this story. It went mega viral. Here's the photo here. And she posted the photo of these witches who were out eating some animal carcass on somebody's security video and said, "Me outside Robby Starbuck's house." Clearly joking, right? Because people are running with this narrative of calling her a witch and saying she's practicing witchcraft. And if you're Megan Fox, you're going to feed into that because she's clearly not afraid of the confrontation. So do I think it's cool that she dresses her kids up like girls? No, not a choice I would personally make. And in some way, these kids need to be looked out for because it's not some sort of statistical anomaly that these 3 boys happen to express gender identities outside of the binary. I would imagine something else is going on, and that something else has to do with their mom. But am I going to air their public freakouts out on Twitter? No. A fairly medium take from me. Taylor's here, by the way, in Nashville.
Oh, hey guys, how's it going?
Taylor, how do you feel about the Megan Fox story?
I feel like why do we have to talk about this? But no, but really, I mostly just agree with you. The kids, on the one hand, do not deserve to be indoctrinated with gender confusion by their mom. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, they probably don't deserve to have their business and lives kind of faces blasted out all over the internet, just for the world to see and just to be invited in to the situation. But the original sin, I guess, so to speak, is with Megan Fox for putting her kids in a situation where they're going to attract this kind of attention when you're dressing them up or cross-dressing them, when you're clearly influencing them. And I think that the telling words in Megan Fox's caption was my child's gender identity, or when you're exploiting my child's gender identity, that's right. The signal right there that this is coming from you, and you are teaching them about their gender in a way that is confusing, in a way that goes along with this modern pseudoscientific ideology that departs from the simple idea that if you're a boy, you're a boy, and you're a girl, and that introduces them to all this. Well, if you happen to look at a Barbie for more than 5 seconds, then I better put you in a pink shirt. And, that's naturally going to create confusion. And clearly, if you have 3 out of 3 who are, or at least I saw there's 2 out of 3 were wearing girls' clothes. We have evidence of that, but they all have long hair, and there's clearly, there's smoke there, so probably a fire. And so anyways, I think that she is getting scrutiny, but she's opened herself up to that scrutiny by doing this to her kids. And I guess by the same token, Robby's kind of opened himself up to some scrutiny by saying, yeah, I witnessed this thing in private, but I'm going to air it. You're going to open up yourself to some criticism on that end too.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And I don't know the exact numbers on this, and maybe it feels like it is becoming more common in Hollywood because Hollywood is reported on way more, but the amount of Hollywood actresses and celebrities that have these like different gender identity children should be looked into. I mean, the numbers are getting stark here. I mean, you have Megan Fox, who's dealing with 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 3 of her kids. You got Jamie Lee Curtis. You have Charlize Theron. You have Angelina Jolie. You have Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union. There are and there's way more than that, right? There's a big handful of celebrities who are having kids that are experiencing issues with their gender identity. And the connection must be made that Hollywood is constantly pushing the narrative of gender theory and transgenderism and being so open-minded that your brain falls out type of deal. So why is it that celebrities in particular are dealing with this in full force when compared to the general population? That's something to ask yourself, right? Is it because, kids of famous people just happen to question their identity more and explore gender theory more? Or is it maybe that the famous people have a certain ideology that is reinforced by Hollywood that they then give down to their children?
And that's kind of ironic, right? Because she's telling Robby, like, leave my kids out of this, never stoop to that level. But at the same time, she kind of didn't leave her kids out of it by pushing her ideology about, sexual nature and gender identity and stuff on them. So, like, again, I underscore the point that, like, the original sense kind of with her, and we wouldn't be talking about any of this if you weren't imposing this weird new pseudoscientific ideology on your kids.
Yeah.
So.
And it's like, it's beyond clothes, right? Because it's not just like clothing, whatever. I really don't care all that much. If I had a kid who is a girl who wants to wear typically boy clothes or a boy who wants to wear typically girl clothes, we'll explore that. We can talk about it. We can talk about why they're interested in doing that. And that's fine, whatever. She makes the leap of saying my children's gender identity. And like, these are young kids. What do you mean your child's gender identity? Just what do you mean? And to me, it's just like, oh, whenever I see this with kids, I'm just like, poor kids. Poor kids, because this is just going to be something that either they wake up from and they're like, yo, what the hell, mom? Why did you do that to me? And why did you allow that to happen? Or it's something that they just never wake up from and they never realize that this was done to them. And you get sort of a Jazz Jennings moment from children. And Jazz Jennings, through all of the psychological breakdowns and it seems all of the mental health issues that she deals with now, still to this very day defends the initial decision from her mother that she made at 2 years old? Even prior to 2 years old, about her kid being trans and having a different gender identity. It's just strange.
That's a great point, Amala. Like, the people, because I can hear people saying, like, why do you guys care? Why do you care if her son puts a pink shirt on that says, girl power or whatever? But we care because that's precisely what we're trying to avoid, is the Jazz Jennings situation where, a lot of times when a child goes down this path and they're affirmed and they go through with the transition and all that, you're making them, we've been over it over and over again, but you're making them a lifetime medical patient. Oftentimes they're going to be sterilized. The rates of suicidal ideation, depression go up through the roof, and all that traces back to, in a case like that, like Jazz Jennings, the parent making a decision on behalf of the child. And that's not okay. That's not a neutral, that's not just like a live and let live type of situation. I hesitate to say it, but I don't know a better word than child abuse.
Yeah. And
that's a process that should be scrutinized and probably should be interrupted.
And here's the thing, and people might disagree with me on this next statement. This might be a hot take. I hope the reality is that Megan Fox happened to have 3 boys who just are interested in girls' clothes. And the three of them independently went to her and said, Mommy, I really want to wear skirts and girl shirts, and I really want long hair, and I want to appear as a girl. I hope that is the reality. Because if that is not the reality, what you have is a woman who is using her children like accessories. She's using her children like pets and going, you know what would be really great for me personally and publicity wise, it would be to have 3 kids that are on the front line of a highly controversial political debate. So I'm going to have my boys have long hair. I'm going to have them dress like girls, and I'm going to speak out publicly about their gender identity. What would be way better is that these boys actually feel this way and independently came to her that way. But that doesn't seem like what's happening. And if you're dealing with the second reality, that she's using her kids as accessories and essentially just dressing them up like baby dolls and trouncing them around town to get press opportunities and photos, you have a problem. And it reminds me of the situation with Dwayne Wade. Because with Dwayne Wade, right now, he's married to Gabrielle Union. They have a son who identifies as a girl and has now become an activist for transgender rights. And Gabrielle Union is not his son's biological mom. So now the biological mother is saying they're doing this for money. They're doing this for campaigns. They're doing this for commercials. They're doing this to be activists and to, ride the wave of something that will get them a lot of publicity right now. And if that is the reality, you're dealing with something far worse for these children. Way, way worse than them independently making the choice to want to express themselves this way.
And someone in the chat alluded to something else that Megan Fox said that I think is important to bring in. This is from parade.com. I'm reading. She said, when I became pregnant with Noah, I could feel through my mother's intuition, I suppose, that he was not subscribing to gender stereotypes. So I decided to provide an environment for him early on that would allow him to discover how he wanted to express himself, she has said. So there you go.
So like, what are you talking about? What did you feel? I saw a video the other day and I immediately sent it over to Taylor. And it was this mother and son who were sitting down sort of interview style having a conversation. And it's an older mom and the son is gay, and that's made clear in the beginning of the video. And he was asking the mom how she dealt with it and how she recognized that he was gay. And she said something like, you wanted to play with Barbies when you were a little kid and you were interested in the princesses rather than the princes and stuff like that. And that's all fine and dandy, right? And as I said before, if I have a son who likes Barbie dolls and wants to explore princesses and do musicals and all this thing, we will explore that to the fullest extent that your passion drives you in that direction. Does that mean you're gay? No, it doesn't mean that. So then you have these parents who are like, oh my gosh, I'm biting my nails. My son likes Barbies and dresses. And they instead project an idea of what that means onto their kids. She even says, I went to the pediatrician about the fact that my kid was interested in girl things. And the pediatrician drove her further down the path of telling her, oh, your son's gay. Like, it's totally fine. Your son's gay. And again, if my son likes Barbies and pink and dresses and princesses and also happens to be gay, that is fine. But to look at a boy and say, because you like Barbies, because you like princesses, because you like dresses, you are gay, and I'm now going to socialize you in that direction, is incorrect. It's just simply incorrect. And I'm looking at this video and it's going kind of viral. Hundreds of thousands of people are liking the video. They're commenting like, what a good mom you are. Like, this is so amazing that you accepted this from him at such a young age. And I'm just realizing, I'm not just realizing, but our perception of like love and sexuality and relationships is upside down. We are in clown world. If you think the toys that your kid likes is an indication of their sexuality and who they're going to be in love with and who they want to be in relationships with, you are delulu, my friend. You are going crazy because it's just not the truth. It's just not true.
And that's a step down from thinking that if they play with toys from the opposite gender, then they are the opposite gender, right? That's a whole nother level to this conversation that is the new reality. I mean, thinking your kid's gay because they played with the opposite gender's toys or whatever, that's going to be the old-fashioned thing. Now it's, I just think that they are the opposite gender. So, and then, which is a much even deeper prescription that is loaded with a lot more heavy consequences for their future than even the former one. So it's just escalating. And like you said, we're just completely unmoored and untethered from any kind of knowing which way's up and which way's down when it comes to sex, when it comes to gender, when it comes to just baseline morality about preserving children's innocence and things like that. We've just completely, had the rug taken out from under us as a culture, as a society right now. And the confusion that we're seeing all around us is evidence of that.
Yeah, it's just so, like, I see videos and stuff from just like parenting and parents calling about advice and stuff, and I've just always been interested in that because, having a kid is just a total life changer and you never want to mess it up or whatever. And you hear stories of like dads who forced their kids to play football because they wanted to play football and they could never really make it, and now you have this kid that you get to live through vicariously and project your own insecurities about the way your childhood went onto them. And with people like Megan Fox and the Gabrielle Unions and the people who have these kids that they are forcing onto the front lines of these gender debates, what they're doing is projecting their utopian views about the way the world should be, projecting their view of what the biggest problems are in the world onto their children and making their children advocates by proxy by having them and by doing this to them. And it disgusts me. And it's not because of the outcome of the child, right? If you naturally, independently have a child that is struggling with gender dysphoria or their sexuality and wants to transition or wants to express that sexuality and come out to you, totally fine, totally normal, occurs naturally. However, if you are a parent who goes, you know what, I have an issue with the stuff that's happening around gender and I want to be an activist, and you force your child into that activism, you have a problem. It's very similar to how I view the Greta Thunbergs of the world. Greta Thunberg was a very, very young girl. We know that she was dealing with other problems. I believe she's on the spectrum. And her mother had a deep insecurity and need for activism towards the climate change movement and climate activism. Who became the person who was the activist? Greta. At what, 13 years old? So you have this massive debate and political issue that really we should be letting adults deal with, because children need to maintain their innocence, and you've now pushed it on a 13-year-old girl. And I said the same thing when I saw little kids who were jumping on pride flags in protest of the pride movement that was happening in their school. It's not okay. In any way, shape, or form. It's not okay when it happens on the right. It's not okay when it happens on the left. And to watch children be at the forefront of every single political discussion that we're having right now blows my mind. And it's almost as though both sides have agreed that this is okay for children to do this. Just wild.
And that's a point that's especially important for the right to grapple with right now, because our whole movement is oriented around protecting children's innocence right now. The fight in Florida, the fight to keep, sexualized performances out from being in front of children, the fight to keep sexual material out of elementary schools and middle schools. The whole movement is fighting against the sexualization of children, and that's a good thing. But you can really undermine your message if you start to play by those same rules and start to use children as your activists. And there's going to be a temptation to do that always, because it's a powerful thing to see a child do things. That's why Greta Thunberg had such a giant resonance. But you're using the same tactics if you're doing that on the right. That's what they did then, and that's just going to undermine your message of trying to preserve children's innocence.
Right. And it's an easy pitfall to be in, right? I was there. I was a child when the March for Our Lives thing happened, and then I ended up speaking at the Orlando March for Our Lives event in front of thousands of people, knowing nothing about what I was talking about. But everybody cheered and was emotionally invested in it, because when you hear something from a child, you're like, wow, it is so profound. Because we're acknowledging that children do not have the same facilities and mental capacity that we do. And that's why we find it more moving when children jump into political activism, because you're like, wow, somebody who should not have the capacity to say these things and to say them so profoundly is saying them. But it's because they're getting it from somewhere else. And I get that we all get our information from somewhere else, but with children, it's a whole different ballgame. And it just should not be encouraged. And unfortunately, it is. And I think both sides encourage it. Now, that's a take on Megan Fox. You let me know how you guys feel about it in the chat down below. We're going to get into the Tonys. So the Tonys happened over the weekend. And y'all know I'm a musical theater nerd. And I'm going to nerd out on you guys right now. But Denee Benton, who was a presenter, came out and had some words for Governor Ron DeSantis. We are going to watch the video and then we'll talk about it.
Hi, I'm Denee Benton, actor, thank you, and proud CMU alum. Earlier tonight, CMU and the Tony Awards presented the 2023 Excellence in Theater Education Award. And while I am certain that the current governor of my home state of Florida will be changing. Changing the name of this following town immediately. We were honored to present this award to the truly incredible and life-changing Jason Zembick Young, enhancing the lives of students at South Plantation High School in Plantation, Florida.
Okay. So that's interesting, right? Okay, let's talk about Denee Benton for just real quick. An immensely talented woman. There is no denying it. If you've ever seen her perform, if you've ever heard her sing, there's nothing to say. She is a stunning performer and artist. Now, the connection that I have with her is we're actually both from the same small town, which is so crazy to me. And her father was actually, I think, the second black mayor of the town that I grew up in and she grew up in. And her father went to the same high school that I went to, graduated from the same high school, albeit years prior from me. But we're both from this really, really small town. And she became super successful, of course, you know, debuted on Broadway, was a Carnegie Mellon alumni and everything. To now hear her come up here and call Governor Ron DeSantis current grand wizard, it's just wild to me to hear these leaps that people jump to in order to characterize a side that they disagree with. And I just want to hear her substantiate what she's saying. What would make you characterize him as being a grand wizard? What great racist or bigoted act has Ron DeSantis personally carried out? Because from my perspective, and of course we are clearly on different ends of the spectrum here, he's done a lot of great things for the state of Florida. I imagine if she were to bring anything up, it would be the Don't Say Gay bill, which we've already discussed and talked about at length on this channel, and the whole book banning that people are running with right now. But to label him as a grand wizard on live television, when if you go and read the bills that Ron DeSantis' administration has personally put forward, they have direct sections where they talk about advocating for African-American history and the thorough teaching of African-American history within the school, with all the woes and transgressions of what Americans have done to African people and the transatlantic slave trade. To just ignore all that and choose to get on TV and call him something like that is just astounding to me. And it's happening all the time now, right? We're being called racist, bigots, sexist, terrorists, grand wizards now. I say this all the time, but the words just lose meaning. They really do when you throw them out like that. And then, of course, the whole crowd just goes into applause because musical theater has been ruined by leftism. It really sucks. Like, we need a musical theater revival where conservatives are allowed in the space, because much like every part of entertainment and Hollywood and media, it's become something completely taken over by leftist ideology. And I get it. Left-leaning people tend to be more creative and take up that space a lot more and tend to be far more invested in the arts, or at least far more powerful within our arts systems and institutions. And they contribute a lot to musical theater. So they're going to contribute their own political ideology and agenda to what they say. But it just sucks, because you know that if these people could, they would alienate half of our population. You know, half of the population, if this next election cycle were to possibly end in a Ron DeSantis versus whoever the Democrat ticket is, half the population would be in support of them. And you know that half of the population enjoys art and movies and media and theater just as much as any other people do. But they get to be alienated at every single turn. Award shows, you never hear somebody go after left-leaning ideology. We got it once, or a few times, with Ricky Gervais. And now he's not hosting anything anymore. So it takes a bold movement to get up there and call out people who are liberal or leftist. But right-leaning people are just cannon fodder for every single award show, every single bit of entertainment. And it just sucks. It just really sucks. You just expect better from people. And you don't get it.
Tragic. I mean, we talked about it before the show. I already was not a huge musical theater fan, but I think the reason for that is largely because of what you're talking about, that it's an art form that has kind of just had this takeover by political activists who all share one side. And it's kind of like, you know, in comedy stops being funny when it becomes so echo chamber ideological, like tuning into any of the late night hosts right now. It's just like mind numbing, or SNL, because it's the same, you know, pot shots at conservatives, and they're playing to one particular audience, and it becomes unfunny for anyone who just happens not to agree with them. And I think that musical theater has been done a disservice as an art form, largely because of the activism of the people who have been running it and been drawn to it for so long. And we were talking before the show, and I'm like, this was the art form of Shakespeare and Oscar Wilde and people like that. Like, I mean, as far as theater in general. And I can appreciate that art form, and I've read those plays, and like it's a beautiful medium. It's poetic. It's so laden with meaning, and you have to be so much more of a performer in different dimensions with singing and dancing and oratory and all this stuff to be able to do it. So it's a very cool art form in its own right. But like I told you before the show, it's just been so like everything's just gay and everything's just silly and everything's like activist now, that it's very hard to find something that isn't off-putting and isn't just like, okay, this is not made for regular people like me to enjoy. This is clearly with a certain flavor on it.
Yeah, it just like, it breaks my heart to think about what art is going to look like in a few decades from now. And they're banking on it, right? You hear so often from young, especially leftist people, that they like can't wait for older generations to die off because their ideas are going to die with them. The traditions are going to die with them. And it is happening, right? If you are enjoying anything, any piece of entertainment that you enjoy right now is probably currently being infiltrated with these ideas. And they are banking on the fact that the older sort of boomer generation who believed in timeless ideals and traditions is going to die off. And in the wake of that death, they will give you their own set of ideals and their own agenda. And yesterday, just to get back on the theater, just use that as an example to have this conversation. Yesterday, I went and watched Bernadette Peters perform at the Pasadena Playhouse. And for those of you who don't know who Bernadette Peters is, she's 75 years old now, but she is just a complete pillar of, the Broadway community. She's essentially like Sondheim's muse. She's been in so many of Stephen Sondheim, who is a extremely famous creator of musicals and writer and songwriter. She has been in many of his great works. He's since passed, right? And he is ticketed with creating so many timeless classics. I mean, so many. Into the Woods, he put together Follies. He wrote, I'm trying to think of ones that you guys will actually know. West Side Story, the music for West Side Story, he is credited with and responsible for. And he's passed, right? He's gone. And now you're getting all these new people in the musical space who are writing their leftist ideology into music. And just imagine that happening with anything else that you love, because it is going to happen. And we talk about it when we do movie reviews, like the timeless nature of movies is dying because nobody cares about that anymore. They care about making the statement for the movement of the moment and nothing else. And that's sad. On a similar note to what Denee Benton said at the Tonys, calling Ron DeSantis the current Grand Wizard, here's Hayley Williams of the band Paramore, if you're familiar, talking about how she feels about those who support Ron DeSantis. Let's hear the clip.
I'm very fucking comfortable talking politics. And if you vote for Ron DeSantis, you're fucking dead to me. So is that comfortable enough for anyone?
Weird. And I just need to know, right? She just said, if you vote for Ron DeSantis, you're effing dead to me, right? And again, if it came down to it and he becomes the candidate, that's 50% of the population. And presumably part of that 50% loves to listen to music and they like to listen to Paramore. Paramore's a super famous band. And these are two grown ass women. Like, you are grown women. You should be at the point in your emotional maturity and in your adult life to accept that people have different opinions than you have. And those people express their opinions in the ballot. And they're going to vote for people different to who you think they should vote for. And to say to that group of people, you are dead to me because they have a differing worldview than you do, blows my mind. Blows my mind, guys. But here we are. Here we are. I don't think a lot of you listen to Paramore. You probably are not the audience for that band.
I can't name one song.
Misery Business.
She sang on a Zed song or something. So
you are the only exception. Do you know that song?
No, I don't.
The only exception? Oh my gosh. Wow. Anyways.
But I notoriously do not know. lot of music.
That is
but
true.
It is strange for these artists to come out and effectively cut themselves off from 50% of the population, like you're saying. Another one recently, similar, was Garth Brooks just last week came out and said at his new bar that he's opening in Nashville, we're going to be serving Bud Light, and anyone who has a problem with that is an a-hole, or something along those lines. And it's just curious to see over and over again the need to politicize what you're doing. I guess as a performer, if you feel like you need to do that to maintain your integrity as a person or whatever, and then by all means. But it's just unfortunate that for art that is meant to be enjoyed by the masses, there's a sour taste in the mouths of half of the would-be audience because of the relentless political activism of the creators, who are genuinely talented often, but just can't help themselves.
Right. Like, you can be a political activist without like alienating other people. You can make a stance for what you believe in without saying you have to hate other individuals. And that's what sucks. Your art should be able to speak for itself. And if your art is good enough, it will bring about human progress. You don't have to tell people how to feel. You can make them feel things through your art. If I was part of a marginalized community, which I guess some people say that I am, I don't personally identify with that. But if I personally identified with being part of a marginalized community, would I hop up and complain about it? The old version of me would have. The new version of me would be like, how can I make something that is more profound than my identity, so that people start to see past my identity? I think of like old black jazz singers back in the day, and how they didn't get up and complain about the marginalized state of being that they were in. They used their talent and they used their voice to give the people something that transcended the vitriol that they might have felt for them. And when you feel that connection with somebody who in the outside world you might look and scoff at or walk to the other side of the street, you start to reevaluate your position on things and your hatred for others. And it, in fact, makes you be introspective. But instead, they come to you and they go, you dislike me, and I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't, and I'm going to tell you that you're not supposed to dislike me, and I'm going to force you to feel the way that I feel about a situation. And it makes you dislike them more. It makes you feel worse about the current state that you're in. And it just, I have to read this super chat because we got one of these immediate reads, but it just sucks. Mo Baby says, finally caught you live. Thank you for your candor and courage, Amla and Taylor. P.S. Do you accept tips through anywhere else? I don't appreciate that YouTube takes a considerable portion. Thank you for your super chat. We currently don't have a Patreon or anything like that, but you can also donate to PragerU by going to prageru.com/donate if you'd like to donate directly to the content that we are creating here at PragerU at large. And I get that YouTube does take quite a big percentage, but we'll deal with that later. But the point still stands, man. There is room for activism, right? And there's room for progressivism. But what is far more powerful is being like, you know what? I get that the world sucks sometimes. What can I do in the state of the world sucking that makes it better for me and makes it so that I've left something on this earth that I'm proud of? And I get that people are proud of activism, right? And it feels good for the moment that it's in. But at the end of the day, are you really like, hell yeah, that's what I did, right? I screamed really loud.
Yeah, it's like making yourself feel better for a moment for how, you're virtuous you are, instead of actually trying, if you are trying to persuade people or make a statement with your art or just with your influence that you have, then let's say someone disagrees with you politically but likes your music. If you're a music artist, you can either be very vocal about how much you hate the other side and how bad they are and how they're all evil and I don't want you listening to my music. Or you can take that little bit of cachet that you have with that person who has extended to you some of their time, some of their goodwill, that, hey, I like your music. I appreciate your creativity. I appreciate what you're bringing to earth. And you can use that to your advantage. If you have a message to send, then send it through that medium, send it, you're not even maybe politicizing your music, but I'm saying like use the little bit of cachet that you have with them to do whatever you can to send a softer message, perhaps, that will actually be heard, rather than just instantly burning up all the cachet that you have by being so woke, so active, and so vocal about it. Like there's more diplomatic ways to do things. And like you said, Alma, if you do truly have something that is progressive, that is beautiful, that appeals to the better angels of our nature, that can really, speak to some evil in the world that needs to be fixed, then if you put that in a compelling story or song or something, it should resonate with people if you're right. Now if it's just activism and you're wrong and you're just possessed by modern ideologies that are only as shallow as the last, couple of decades of postmodern thinkers and all this nonsense, then it's probably going to still fall flat for a lot of people. But if you have a little bit of access with people, and you have something genuine to share with them, put your heart and soul into your art, and hopefully if it's worth its salt, it should come through.
Yeah, and that's not to say that you need to just sit through people oppressing you and holding you under their thumb or whatever. It's just to say that should not necessarily be the focal point of your life, And the perfect segue into this next video. I have one more video out of the Tonys, and this is Parade director Michael Arden, who won a Tony for his work on Parade, which I hear is a fantastic musical. I have not had the time to watch it yet, but here is his acceptance speech, where he mentions the F word, and maybe not the F word that you're all thinking of.
Trans, non-binary, queer youth, know that your queerness is what makes you beautiful and powerful. Everyone in this...
Pause. I got 5 seconds in. Your queerness is what makes you beautiful? Are you serious? Are we really going to reduce down the different facets of an individual down to your queerness and say that that's what makes you beautiful? I can't disagree with that statement more. Your queerness is the last thing on the list. I don't even know if it makes the list of things that would make you beautiful. It makes no sense to identify your beauty with the state of your sexuality and your gender expression. Moving on.
This room sees you and needs you, and we will fight alongside you, and we will win. Growing up, I was called the F word more times than I can remember, and
it's going out for a reason. He says this F word just won a Tony. So that was the big statement that he wanted to make during his acceptance speech. It is his time, whatever. That's great. But it goes back to what we were just saying. You can allow your oppression to be a focal point in your life, so much so that it starts to overtake moments where you should be at peak joy. This should be his moment, at least in my opinion, to be I created a piece of art that, now hundreds of thousands of people have seen, and they loved it so much that I'm getting an award for it, which means my genius and my creativity and my vision of the world shone through in this piece of art that people got to see. And instead it's I was bullied and called the F word, and now this F word won a Tony. It's just to me, it just ruins the actual achievement that you did, because now you're using this external villain that you have in your life to drive your creativity and drive the things that you do, rather than saying, I got this on my own accord and it has nothing to do with those prior bad experiences, and I don't have to let those bad experiences taint my vision that I have for myself right now. But that's just me.
Yeah, that holds true in sports too. I can't remember the two players right now. They're escaping me. I want to say one of them was Michael Jordan, but I can't remember. But there's a famous contrast between two players who got major awards in basketball, and one of them was I'm so grateful for all the coaches, my parents, everyone who supported me, the fans. I'm standing on all your shoulders. I couldn't have done this without this person, this person, this person. This is the most meaningful award I've gotten. It's a pinnacle of my career, and just effusive in praise for all the people who he was grateful for. And then there was another one who was all the haters said I could never do it. Well, F you, this was my achievement. I did it. I proved you all wrong. And, it's just this, you've been so bitter about life your entire life. And I guess it motivated you to do great things, but man, at what cost? And you just seem like this angry person who's not free. You're not free and being your true self and living out your dream. You're just living in opposition to pain or something that he's like, you need therapy.
Right.
And where it's so clear when somebody's like free and just is like, hey, I can share this moment. And I think that's interesting that big moments can really draw that out.
Yeah, it's such a natural thing. I get it, to be like, F you, you thought I sucked and other people don't think I suck. Isn't that super cool? But it just really takes away from the momentum that you have in that moment to just like define yourself by the actions of other people. Do you think that those like people in kindergarten and high school that called you the F word on the playground or whatever care that you won a Tony? But you've just in essence dedicated your acceptance speech to them. They don't care. They're not watching. They're not looking. And they've grown to have their own independent lives that I'm sure were full of their own successes and their own, accolades. They're not sitting there watching you going like, damn, that kid that I bullied in high school, he just won a Tony. I feel bad for what I did. But you've given them the moment, I guess. And that's the way that moment will live on. And I get it. There's been moments in my life that I'm sure I've done that. And like you pursue things despite other people and to be like, I'm going to do the thing that you think that I cannot do, or I'm going to become more successful for you just because I want to be more successful than you. But it just never works out. I mean, it works out in the fact that you win a Tony and stuff, but philosophically doesn't work out. Do I have anything else to talk about today? I think we're going to get into super chats. I did not expect to rant for that long on these things.
On which one? Yeah,
on the Tonys. I thought I was going to, touch on it for a little bit, but I ended up having a lot more to say about that. Who knew?
All right, guys. Well, if you've been waiting, get your super chats in now. It looks like we don't have a ton today, so we'll probably get through them pretty quickly. This is from Chris Trucker, who says, first time super chat. Thank you. I first followed you on TikTok and now on the YouTubes. I'm atheist but lean conservative, and it's great to know other non-religious people are also right thinking.
Hey, welcome to the club. We're here. We're queer. Get used to it. I remember that saying being a big thing when I was a leftist. I don't know if people still say that anymore.
Oh, please don't make me say that. I did not know that was a thing, and I don't want it to be the slogan of the show.
It's a huge thing. They used to scream it at Pride. We're here, we're queer, get used to it.
Oh, wow.
Heck yeah,
okay.
I guess.
Well, moving on. Nicodemus, 1984, says, we have to consider that many Hollywood members possibly believe in real life what they portray in movies. By the way, the scarf in your hair is a nice touch. Cheers to the team.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You guys like the scarf? Yeah, I mean, I do think many of them truly believe what they're doing, and maybe even don't even recognize that they're projecting it onto their children. And maybe they are so deeply entrenched in it that they believe what they've fabricated is happening naturally. And if that's not the scariest thing ever, I don't know what is. We got a $50 one, which means we need to read it immediately. Nick Tyler says, unapologetic triple crown. Great job. Scott with the winning Derby and Belmont picks. Taylor with the winning Preakness pick. To win all three is super impressive. I will pay out the winnings with super chats. I have yet to win with a single horse that I've picked, guys. Suck.
Apparently we're like horse race whisperers on this show, though. At least your producers are.
I guess so. Not me.
Well,
could never be.
One day, Amala.
Yeah.
But thank you. I'm enjoying the ongoing horse race betting on
it's fun.
The show. Lorma's Little Love says, love from Scotland. Thank you.
Awesome. That's great.
May 987 says, I'm glad my parents never made a big deal out of me liking boy things, be it vintage cars and Lego or boy clothes to Barbie dolls. My guy friends used to view me as one of the guys. Didn't make me feel any less a girl.
Yeah, I was so similar when I was a kid too. Used to play flag football and basketball and foosball and just liked wearing pants and stuff. And gosh, imagine if it had been a different time. Spooky, scary. Not funny, haha, funny, weird.
Funny, weird. Kate Svensson says, I loved playing army with my brother, climbing trees and exploring the jungle that ran between neighborhood houses. Along the irrigation ditch. I grew up all woman.
Yeah. See, just Let kids be kids, man.
Did the word tomboy just disappear out of vocabulary?
It has, really. I mean, it's making a comeback, right? As people are talking
just dropped
about
the
it
Tom.
and saying.
You're just a boy now.
By the way, Spencer, did I ever introduce you? Spencer's in the producer's
don't
bay,
think we did.
guys.
What's up, guys? It's been a very
Spencer
long
came
time
in
since
clutch
I've been here.
today.
It's been like a year since I've been over in this bay.
It has been a while. If you're an OG, you remember Spencer. He's been here. He's still at PragerU. It's just not behind the producer's
Yeah, doing some other
desk
stuff.
anymore. Doing some other stuff.
Yeah, so thanks for being here,
Thanks for
Spencer.
having me, guys.
British Birdie says, parents never cared if my brothers played with dolls. Oh, wait, I just read that one. Okay, sorry. Jaded Dusk says, a lot of woke people get mad when someone says something like women don't play video games. Then they are the first ones to put people in a gender box based on their interest. Love you guys.
Make it make sense. The math isn't mathing. That's how I feel about that. And it's so true. Just the complete. There's so many holes in the logic. So many plot holes that I can't watch the movie.
But we can't stop watching the movie because it's real life,
True.
unfortunately. I told Amala earlier, I went to Starbucks this weekend and it was like going into a religious temple. There was like trans flag streamers across the entire bar. Every employee had their pronouns on their pin, pronoun pin on their apron.
Mm-hmm.
Even the customers, it was like this giant 6'5" pink-haired man with his family, and his wife had the short hair and the ear gauges, and there was like pride gnomes everywhere. It was just like I'm like, what is this? I just wanted a coffee, and it's just, reality is aggressive now.
Yeah, it is. It's everywhere.
Anyways, that's my fault for going into Starbucks, I guess.
It is.
Lily says, in my school, almost no one stands for the Pledge of Allegiance, and yet statistics in my school, at least 25% are LGBTQ. Just a thought.
Whoa. Wow. Things are shifting and changing, brothers. I don't know what else to say about that. I don't know what else to say.
All right. Right-leaning RLL says, it's crazy using little kids' preferences to decide their gender. When I was little, I liked pink and dolls. I still use fruity perfume rather than colognes, but no one thought I was trans or gay. Little kids like things.
You know, who would think that kids can express themselves differently and have different interests than one another? Just, it's a novel idea, really. Maybe one day we'll explore it.
And it seems like, we've had several people make the same commentary, and that's the common sense position is that boys who happen to express interest in a Barbie are boys who happen to express interest in a Barbie. That doesn't mean anything else. And that's probably a fleeting passing thing, knowing children. I was around my brother's 1-year-old and 5-year-old this past weekend, and my sister-in-law and brother-in-law's 2-year-old. And that kid changes their attention and what they're into on any given moment like that. It is insane, but it's like the most passionate thing ever for like 5 minutes, and then oh wow, something else got their attention. And so kids are different. Their minds change. That just because they express interest in one thing doesn't mean you need to set them on a path for life in a particular direction.
Right. Like, let them explore interests. Like, you don't have to create any sort of stigma around it. You don't need to create the gender bending stigma around it. And you don't need to create a stigma that boys shouldn't be able to play with dolls and stuff. I hear it on both ends. Like, the left says if you play with dolls, you're a girl. And then people on the right are like, well, my son's never allowed to touch a Barbie doll or anything like that. And then I think that in turn has a negative effect as well, that you create this stigma around people being able to explore their own passing thoughts. And then that can bring about bad outcomes too. Neither of them are good things.
Can make them feel shame, and then that's going to have a whole nother cycle of dysfunction in the opposite direction.
Exactly.
Alex Centeas says, hey guys, just listen to that band you like, 1975, Amla's favorite band for those watching. What kind of leftist gobbledygook is that? Lol, I'm JK. Do you guys listen to any Spanish music?
Not really. I'm trying to think of Spanish music. I like Selena every now and then. There's a Spanish song called Muchachita Linda that I like, which is really good. And that's bachata. It's good.
Wow.
Romeo Santos. Okay. He's good. I always hear it every time you go to a Mexican restaurant, you can bet that they're playing Romeo Santos everywhere you go. So yeah. Who else? Rosalia, she's good. I've listened to some of her music. She's like a super big rising star right now. I don't like Bad Bunny. Sorry, guys. I know he's super popular.
But he's bad.
But he's not great.
I have impeccable taste in Spanish music. Despacito. Oh my gosh, what a Spanish classic.
I hate that song. That song can burn. I hate it so much.
Someone said Daddy Yankee. Fun fact. So I graduated high school in Panama, Central America, and Daddy Yankee was the thing back then. So I don't know a lot of reggaeton, but I'm very familiar with reggaeton music because of my time in Panama.
I had a Puerto Rican best friend in high school, and yeah, Daddy Yankee was a big thing. Big thing. Big thing. So
I just went
Romeo.
to my Honduran friend's wedding, and they were playing reggaeton during the dance on the dance floor, and it was pretty ratchet.
Yeah.
She was like translating to me some of the words because I can understand spoken Spanish pretty well, but in songs and raps, it's really hard. And I blushed at the words. It was very bad.
Oh, I bet.
Very inappropriate.
I bet.
Anyways, Michael Jackson. Wow, thanks for watching. But yet Joe Biden spoke at the funeral of a grand wizard. Big if true.
I don't know.
Actually, probably not big if true.
I mean, knowing his history on race is just blows my mind that he's made it as far as he's made it. The amount of videos that you can look up of that man saying the most racist shit you can think of is just crazy. But here we are, I guess, 50 years later.
Yeah. Not to mention the whole like crime bill and all of that. Like, it's just if you're in the right spot, or if you are willing to say the right things now, your past is completely forgiven.
It's all marketing.
But if you're saying the wrong things now, they will dig up the most benign tweet and call you a grand wizard.
His PR team is crushing it. I'll tell you that.
An autistic reader says, was taught as a child to look past someone's race to the person they actually are. Being one race doesn't automatically make you a good or bad person. Same with sexuality. Such a huge shift. Things made too complicated now.
Yep. There's good and bad in people of all different backgrounds, creeds, religions, anything you can think of. Common sense.
And I love that. Looking past someone's race and sexuality to see who they actually are.
Yeah.
Well phrased.
Very well phrased.
Greg Kett says, I thought it was Grand Dragon for the KKK based on spiritual systems of Egypt where the word dragon and serpent was interchangeable, claiming themselves to be aware because they are racist. Hasn't she seen Black Colonials?
I don't know any of the history on these things. I will tell you I'm not super well versed in the ins and outs of the KKK. But
or the ancient spirituality systems of Egypt.
Yeah, or that. This is something we might have to look into. But no, I've not heard that.
But the dragon tattoo on your arm, I think, maybe made him think you had some mythology going on.
Imagine.
Natasha says, my brother as a toddler insisted on having his nails painted blue or green. My very religious dad was freaking out, but my mom stayed quiet and kept doing it for him until he eventually lost interest.
Happens to the best of us. I think so. It sounds like what I would do.
He'll need less therapy than Megan Fox's kids, that's for sure. Alex Centeus says, I'm starting to notice normal non-political people that don't want to buy Bud Light, go to Target, etc. Do you guys see the tide finally turning back?
I don't know. I can never tell. I never get a good gauge on these things. I never know if they're actually doing anything, right? Because the cycle continues and we still have news the next day. At this point, I'm like, I just fluctuate between like, something's happening, nothing's happening. Most people don't agree with this, but they're quiet. Maybe this is all distraction for a greater plot against humanity. So these are the ideas that constantly are just going throughout my brain. I've been on the BlackRock Vanguard, train right now.
That's a tough one.
Comes and goes.
Speaking of, and I guess this applies to both, but one other story that we didn't get to an update on today was the whole Blizzard Activision Call of Duty situation with the streamers. What was the original streamer's name? I forget. Chris something. Anyways, giant streamer said, leave the kids out of it on Twitter with regard to this whole gender debate. And that was enough for the Call of Duty game makers to pull his special armor or whatever that you could buy from him off of the game. And then another streamer Tim the Tap Man came out and was like, look, if you're going to, that was the most benign thing ever for him to say. We should want to protect children. If you're going to pull his, then you should pull mine too. And they were like, okay, we're going to pull that. So that's a case of a company not having the same effect of Bud Light. Their stock looks like it's held steady. So there was a lot of media about it, but I guess the backlash hasn't quite hit them. And then of course somebody looked it up and their biggest owners are BlackRock and Vanguard. So all roads seem to lead back to that. Sometimes you get a W like the Target and the Bud Light situation, or what at least feels like a W for a while, but then there's always plenty more examples of companies doubling down on their woke stuff and not seeing the public backlash. So who knows?
I mean, there's such an addiction to it with video games too that I think it would be hard if Call of Duty is your favorite game. Gamers probably aren't going to stop playing their favorite game for the sake of...
Yeah, it's a tougher ask than
much tougher
not drinking
ask.
pea water.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and it's not like I guess there are other games, but it's a bigger thing to depart from that to another game than like Coors to Bud Light. You can barely tell them apart.
Right.
Anyways, okay, Alex again. All right, time to go off the deep end, guys. Which one is more likely to happen? Aliens being real or AI turning into Terminator?
I mean, I'm open to the idea of extraterrestrial life. So, I mean, but which one's going to happen sooner? AI. I think AI is going to happen sooner. We're on the precipice there. I saw somebody did like a highlighted map of how many people have like said they've spotted aliens or UFOs, and the amount that like the UK lights up on that map and the US lights up on that map, and there's like nothing in the Middle East, nothing in Africa, nothing in Asia. It's just like we have a cultural obsession with aliens and invasions and UFOs, and it's not a cultural obsession that's shared by other countries. And thus they don't have reports of like, lights beaming down from the sky and aircrafts falling and stuff like that. Unless they're just like targeting the US and Europe for some reason.
Doubtful. Lucy Lawal says, I have nothing of substance to say, but your commentary makes me think, and your hair looks adorbs today.
Thanks. I'm glad about both of those things. Thank you.
Petunia 1 ISH says, first time super chat. I'm from MS, I guess. Is that Mississippi? I want to say.
I think so.
And I love y'all. Thanks for keeping it based, but also open-minded. I love all people, so can we just calm down?
That's what we're trying to do here. What did we say on Friday's stream? Just chill out, y'all.
Just
At the end of the
chilling.
day, it's all chill.
That's the new slogan for the show. We're just chilling.
Yeah, we're just chilling.
Michael Barlow says, putting down the people that put you down may have reverse psychology and embolden them. Pressure makes a diamond. These haters may only think that they helped you by making it harder.
Yeah, it's kind of just like, how like when they tell you when you did like the bullying program in school, and it's like, don't react too much to the bully because they're looking to get a rise out of you. Like that's exactly what's happening here. And it's interesting to watch adults engage in that because it's like, it's just an experience a lesson you'd never learned in childhood, and now it translates to your adult life. And it's kind of sad to watch adults engage in that way. It's kind of sad.
Kind of cringe.
Just a little.
Nick Tyler says, even though you didn't pick any winners, you deserve some credit because you host the show.
Hey.
You feel better?
Yeah.
Also, Paramore is to me as the 1985 is to Amala. Hayley Williams' stupidity hurt my soul. Luckily, I don't love them for their political beliefs.
Yeah. It sucks because I'm like, okay, there's a line I can, like the 1975, they're leftist or whatever, and that's fine. I can still listen to your music. But then when you're like, I hate you and you're dead to me, I'm like, oh, am I going to now that's just in the back of my mind. I'm not going to go look you guys up on Spotify anymore. I'm just over it. It just irks me. So that sucks. Tough. There's like a line.
Anthony Schoen says, I watched your reaction of Hassan reacting to your documentary. I think you guys got it right. He's a bitter person for reasons we don't know, which seems to be true for many progressives today.
It's the same thing with like the bullying thing. I'm like, ugh. When you're a kid and you do it, it's like, oh, okay, he needs to learn a little bit. When you're an adult, it's just kind of sad. Sorry.
Yeah, and he is capable of doing better than what we saw there. Like I sent you a clip on TikTok the other day of him actually making an argument, and it was like, okay, I mean, I still disagreed and figured we could refute that argument, but it was like, Oh, okay. He made a good faith argument, at least, to get an effort. So on that particular day, it was not
off.
Really a good day. Jiminy Rabbitson says, read the first chapter of Life of Christ last night. Would recommend. What's the last nonfiction book you guys have read?
Oh gosh, the last nonfiction one that you gave me, I think, The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt. I read that, and that was. And then I began reading The Parasitic Mind by Gadsad. There's that. But now I'm on fiction, guys. I'm sorry. I don't really like nonfiction all that much. I think I read so many like news stories throughout the day and stuff that I don't want to read more nonfiction when I'm home.
I'm reading a book called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. It's like a marketing book. And then I am reading The Reason for God. Just started that again by Tim Keller because he just passed away and he was like a big hero in my faith journey. And my wife had that book on her shelf and I was like, you know what? I'm going to crack this open again. I never actually read it. And it's like his most famous book. So that's what I'm reading.
Next thing is going to be Robert Greene, I think. My boyfriend recommended Robert Greene. I need to get into his stuff.
If you guys are into books, by the way, my wife has the world's greatest bookstagram. You can check it out on Instagram. It's Ansley Books, ANSLEY Books. And she reads a lot of
voracious reader.
Some nonfiction, but a lot of fiction as well. And reads multiple books a week oftentimes. And I just am astounded. But anyway. I have bookshelves and bookshelves full of books that I've never read, but she has. So
she's a big reader.
Shout out to her. Yeah. Jimmy. Oh no, we just read yours, Jimmy. Thank you. An autistic reader says, grew up being told Goosebumps by R.L. Stine was for boys to read, was allowed to like the books in the Fear Street series, was made fun of for preferring blue over pink, told I should live makeup, hate it because I'm a girl.
It's just so dumb. It's just so dumb. All of that is so dumb. By the way, R.L. Stine is scary to me even as an adult. Have you gone back and watched the Goosebumps that are on Netflix? That one with the doll? That messes me up every time I watch it. I'll have to find the cover for that one. And if you have not watched it, oh my gosh, it might be a little late because we're all adults here, right? But every time I watch that, even in adulthood, it is scary. This girl right here, Lily D. The Lily D episode, I'm going to show you guys this doll once we get this thing plugged back in. If this does not like haunt, there she is. There's Lily D. Mess me up, y'all. Have you seen this, Taylor?
Oh, get my face off of there. Get away from that thing. That's terrifying.
Oh my gosh. Anyways.
Ugh. Yeah, we went back and watched some of the what was that show? Are You Afraid of the Dark? I was on Nickelodeon.
Oh yeah,
back in the day, and some of those are pretty creepy, man.
They are. They weren't playing. They didn't. We're not playing.
Not. I don't do scary movies. It's not my thing.
Not mine either.
Suspense is okay. Thriller is okay. Scary, horror, not it. Sup, my dude says Popular Mechanics reported recently that American IQ scores have decreased rapidly. What are your thoughts? And is that a good reason to ban the 1975?
My gosh. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if our IQ is dropping. I think like academically we're not performing as well as we used to, and I think that's clear. We have a lot of kids right now that are graduating high school with like barely being able to read at the like rate that you're supposed to be able to read when you graduate. They're not doing math as proficiently. They don't know their sciences as well as they should. So I imagine that would come about with a big drop in IQ. But I don't know. I don't always give into the narratives that like this generation is not as smart as the generations that came before it. I think we have different capabilities. I saw there's this video that's going viral on TikTok of this comedian being like, Gen Z doesn't even know how to like write a check or send a letter from the post office. And it's like, okay, yeah, but when is that ever required of us? And can you log into your email without asking a Gen Zer how to do it? You know, it's like there's a million things that we are far more proficient in than any other generation before us. And it's just different. It's always going to be different. And there's this guy who goes through like old newspaper clippings of generations just complaining about each other and saying the same thing. Like, this new generation is the dumbest we've ever been, or this new generation is the laziest we've ever seen. And it happens every year. Every year they say the same thing about whoever's born that year. So I don't know.
You even know how to churn butter, Amala? Are you just one of those dumb Gen Z people?
Exactly. But maybe we are getting dumber collectively, all generations, maybe.
Probably. We live in the dumbest time I've ever seen. So Alex again says, Daddy Yankee gasolina for the win. I'm super surprised. Romeo, can we expect a bachata tutorial anytime soon?
Hey, I can. I'm not going to give you guys a tutorial because that doesn't seem, I don't know. I just feel like I can hear the comments already, but I can't dance. I love to dance, y'all. And it's so funny because you don't expect you're like, oh, conservatives, like right-wing people, they don't like go out and dance. On the weekends, I like go out with my best friend Risa and we go and dance at like bars that play hip hop. We're always searching for somebody who plays hip hop, and sometimes I meet you guys out there and they're like, I never expected to see you here. And I dance, like I do not play. So, see you guys there. Sometimes I see you guys. I've met so many of you now. I don't know if the show has just like been booming lately, but I went out to the Grove this weekend, and where else did I go? Century City. The mall. And
sorry, you told me that earlier. I'm not stalking you.
right. So many of you reached out to me and were like walking up to me, and which is always great so long as you guys aren't weird. Only one person was strange.
So there you go.
Just don't be strange.
Maybe it's time to bust out the old TikTok dancing videos. You did a couple of those shortly after the conversion, right?
Yeah, don't look those up, guys. But yeah, I did. No, that was not my best dancing. Certainly not the dancing that I would bring to the bar, but maybe I will.
Michael Drew says the real culprit in the Megan Fox issue is her husband. He took happy wife, happy life to the extreme. Also, Megan just had an interview where she said she suffers from body dysmorphia.
Interesting. I mean, I don't know. Didn't she just go viral for like posting a naked picture or like a half naked photo on the internet, and it went so viral because everybody was saying how hot she is?
Yeah. Why does her body dysmorphia have anything to do with her kids, though?
Yeah, like again, projection. But also body dysmorphia that makes you post half naked photos on the internet. Sus. I'm suspicious.
The math is not mathing.
Yeah, it's not making sense to me. I think everybody maybe that's too much of a hot take for today. I'm going to pass. Never mind.
Oh, no. All right.
Never mind.
Look, people are getting banned. They're going after Daily Wire right now. You got to be a little careful these days.
Right, a little tactful. Yeah, Michael Knowles and Candace have been suspended for 7 days on YouTube, all over gender stuff. So we'll see what happens. I think we're going to be fine, but maybe that's too optimistic of me.
Knock on wood. Yeah. Nick says, is it bad that what got under my skin most about Fox post was her use of the word irregardless? That word is a classic leftist fake news and arguably worse than the 1975.
Irregardless. Yeah, I think she meant irrespective. I don't remember what the sentence was.
Regardless.
Let me see.
Irregardless is not a word.
Oh, yeah, she said regardless of how desperate. Yeah. I mean, yeah, both. Yeah. Irregardless.
It's one of those classic grammar mistakes.
Yeah. I've not heard that mistake. I don't think I've heard somebody say irregardless.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a common thing that people say. You think it's irregardless, but it is regardless.
Interesting.
So, anyways, nice catch, Nick. They're not getting it past you.
Nothing gets past you.
Alex again. Nick Merckx is his name. Oh, the streamer that I was referring to.
Nick Merckx, yeah.
And boycott all of Call of Duty. Dr. Disrespect, also a big streamer, is currently boycotting COD, which is very surprising in a good way. Yeah, he's huge. I even know who he is, and I don't really follow that whole space.
I've heard of him too.
Good news. MP Jumper says, world by large grew up from, if you're not like us, then you're evil, around the time of many failed crusades and inquisitions. How many people will have to die to waves of wokeism before they stop trying to change reality?
It's always going to be something. I've accepted that about. I mean, if we're going to say the world is never going to be utopic, then it's always going to have something, some sort of ideology or agenda that's being pushed that's harming people, I think. So we'll see how long this one lasts. It'll be in the history books for sure.
Yes, indeed. Sean Kelly says, just want to say thank you guys. You rock. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks.
Nick again says, no shade about the 1975. I'm just poking fun. Thanks for everything y'all do. I
cool.
love this show and look forward to my unapologetic fix every week. Keep fighting the good fight. Your braids are kiss Italian
Chef's
hands
kiss.
emoji stars.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And last couple here, Jacob Jacobs says parents are supposed to influence their kids. Leftism is like a religion. So isn't my child is gay or trans a lot like saying my child is Christian?
I mean, in a sense, there's different. Okay, so like I was thinking if you were a leftist, right, you would endow your kids with the belief surrounding that. And of course, Christians do that as well with their kids. Muslims do it as well with their kids. You as a parent want to give your child whatever your worldview is, because that would be the compassionate thing to do. If you think you're a good person with good values, why would you not want to pass on those good values to your kids? Does that translate to telling them they're girls when they're actually boys? Or like if I was a leftist and I'm thinking of passing that down to my kid, I would be like, you should accept people for, you know, whatever it is that they identify with, and you should respect their pronouns. Those are the things that I would say to my kids. I wouldn't be like, you are a boy who's now a girl because I am a leftist. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not down for forcing kids to believe anything. I think you should share your values with your child. And I think the most powerful way to do that is by living them. It doesn't have to be like, I'm going to sit down my kid and tell them this is what they're supposed to believe. I'm not for telling anybody like, you have to believe this if you're going to be my child or anything like that. So if that was happening in the religious sense, wouldn't think it was cool. And if it's happening in this like leftist agenda sense, it's also not cool. Get what I mean?
Even as a Christian, I don't think I could have said it better. Thank you. DTX Hero says, I like suspense mystery thriller too, but horror is a big nope for me unless it's action adventure horror like The Mummy or Van Helsing. Those rock. Oh, if those are horror, then yeah, I like The Mummy.
Right, yeah. I like thrillers or like psychologically suspense.
Right, like I can do Shutter Island, but
suspense.
I don't want to watch like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right,
you know?
or like Saw. Or, yeah, no.
Not about it. Abigail says, I'm writing a paper on transgenderism affecting women's rights, but I'm scared. It is a Texas college, but every school is so woke now. Any advice?
Rip it off like a Band-Aid, girl. Turn that paper in and see what happens. If something bad happens, at least you got a good story. You know, nothing happens if you don't test the boundaries.
Yeah, and you can let us know how it goes.
Exactly.
Maybe we'll cover it on the show.
Let us know. We're here for you.
If they freak out on you, yeah. I think this is our last one from Alex again. If you guys couldn't tell, I love donating to you guys. Amla, do you speak Spanish at all? And what is your favorite Spanish song?
I don't speak Spanish. Oh, what is my favorite Spanish song? What is it called? Hold on. La 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 la. Oh. Taylor, do you have a favorite Spanish song while I'm looking this up?
Not one that comes to mind this second.
Okay. This one is, I think it's a lullaby. It's called A La Lanita. I don't know if you guys have heard that song. I know it from Cheetah Girls. Okay, where they're like, a la nanita, na na nanita, eh, na nanita, eh, yeah. That song. That's my favorite Spanish song. Because Cheetah Girls, I'm a Cheetah Girl, Cheetah sister. And they said we didn't have representation back in the day. I was repping Cheetah Girls. Are you kidding me? Anyways, I don't even know if I sang that right. So.
All right. Well, Alex, you hit a nerve, so well done.
Anyways, guys, that's our show. Thank you so much for hanging out. As always, put your thoughts in the comments down below. How do you feel about the Megan Fox situation? How do you feel about the Tonys Awards? I know you don't probably care about musical theater, but if you do, let me know. What other form of art do you see this sort of indoctrination and injection of these values happening in? Let me know how it affects your life personally. Is it gaming? Is it movies? Is it music? You know what to do. And as always, we encourage healthy debate, so duke it out in the comments, but do so respectfully. Please like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time we're live. That's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Plus, we post videos for you guys every single day. So don't miss out. If you'd like to have conversations outside of the show, join the Discord. The link is in the description down below. You can also sign up for my newsletter, which every Friday I'll send you a little blurb about what's going on in my personal life, and you'll get updates about PragerU's content and the content that I create here at PragerU. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys tomorrow.